Hello and welcome to Film Shrapnel. This is our last, fourth and final. What's it? Well, is it? Should we be calling it Italian? Yeah, Italian Video Nasties season is what we're calling it. And for our final one, we're going to be doing one that surprised me. I actually really like this one. I think it's probably my second favorite of the four that we've done. Zombie flesh eaters. And yeah, as always, I'm with Tobias. Tobias, what do you think of this film? I really liked it.
I really like this film too. This is really good.
I think, yeah. Quick thing that we should mention, I guess, Tobias, you definitely 100% know this. This is like an unofficial sequel to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
Isn't it more of? I sort of read this as a prequel.
I think it's supposed to be a sequel because I read. So in Italy, Dawn of the Dead was marketed as Zombie.
Yes.
And so this was like Zombie 2 in Italy.
Yeah. They tried to capitalize on the success of Dawn of the Dead, but when you watch it, so this is the thing. My memory of this film was it has nothing to do with Dawn of the Dead, even though it markets itself as a sequel. But when you watch it, the storyline is basically that the zombies are coming from this island. And the first scene, once again, by the way, I love the music in this movie. It's really odd and sometimes misplaced, but really catchy. But I really like it. But the opening, we see a boat that's been obviously ransacked by something, and it's just sort of like aimlessly floating towards New York. We see New York in the background. Obviously, they probably had like one day of shooting in New York, I reckon, and they get a shot for the beginning of the movie and a shot for the end of the movie, and that's all the time we spend in New York. But the opening of the film, we see like a zombie sort of floating to New York, and I only watching it this time do I now take it as this is meant to be the origin of how the zombie apocalypse comes to America for the George A. Romero original. But in all fairness, this has absolutely nothing to do with Dawn of the Dead. But they are trying to give you a reason for all the zombies, whereas in the original Dawn of the Dead, there is no real reason besides one throwaway line, which is when there's no more room left in hell, the dead will walk the earth. That's all they give us. Whereas in this, they flat out say, and again, this is more traditional zombies, they say it's voodoo. And that Voodoo was the original zombie film. The original zombie film, it wasn't a virus, it was voodoo. It was someone raising people from the dead to be slaves. They weren't even out, there was a main bad guy that was controlling the zombies. I forget now what the movie's called. Something Zombie. It's literally called Something Zombie. And it's the original.
Zombie, maybe.
Oh, I can't remember.
That film.
I really can't remember the name of it, but it's like one of the original, maybe if not the original zombie film, and it's done through Voodoo. So they go the Voodoo direction with this, and
I do see what you mean. Actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That it's kind of like a prequel, but I think that's really like, I don't think that was intentional, but it definitely feels like. That definitely is a more interesting way of looking at it than what I think it is. It's just because could it have just happened at the same time? Because also you say there's a reason, the voodoo is the reason, but we don't really understand the voodoo. Why?
No, they don't explain it too much. Like I think we have there's one moment where they mention voodoo, and then they talk about how that's impossible because it's a combination of Catholic and African superstition, African
Hmm.
tribal superstition, and they're like, this doesn't make sense. And then they're like, well, it might not make sense, but it's happening, and science isn't explaining it. So
Yeah.
they do mention the voodoo, but like we never see anyone doing voodoo. We never see any voodoo. We just get told it's voodoo.
Yes, that's very true. I do like to think, though. So you mentioned the soundtrack, and there's this kind of like I don't know how to describe it, like voodoo music happening kind of in the background at certain points
About
on
the
the
drums.
island. Yes,
Yeah.
which I really like, by the way. But I was starting to think as we were watching this movie that could this like symbolize like the others that are on this side? Because I'm assuming there should be like a town, there should be a bunch of people here, and there's somewhere
Mm.
that we don't know where they are, just in inland on the island. Because they do mention that they're inland, like people running away from this voodoo shit. What if that's like the sound of this like a ritual happening and like the dead are coming alive or something? I quite like that,
Mm.
interpreting it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do agree. I do agree. I do think this movie is a slow burn, though.
It is a little bit, but it's not very long, I think, though. It's like an hour and a half, I think.
Which I would definitely say is, to be a slow burn and only be an hour and a half, it's probably not a good sign.
Maybe not. But I really like this one. I have so many notes on this movie. Uh, I find it very interesting. I find it very enjoyable. I think I really like the idea of a zombie island. There's something about
Yeah,
it that really appeals to me.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I like a zombie island like as much as the next guy.
Oh, by the way, do you want a little bit of trivia that I have to tell you this? I don't know if you know already.
Go on.
Um, so apparently, uh, as I mentioned earlier, so in Italy, uh, Dawn of the Dead was known as zombie. Zombie, but with the E cut off at the end. I guess it's
Yeah, yeah,
Italian
yeah.
for zombie. Dario Argento edited that in Italy. And guess which
Really?
band did the score?
Not Goblin.
Yes, in the Italian
What?
version of Dawn of the Dead, Dario Argento and Goblin worked on it. And I found that really interesting.
So
Like very
you're telling me if I watch the Italian version of Dawn of the Dead, I'm going to get a different soundtrack by Goblin.
potentially. This is what Wikipedia is saying.
Well, I'm definitely
And
rewatching it now.
yeah, find the Italian one. And what I also found interesting was I was like wondering how does this happen so often? Why are Italians constantly remake like doing sequels to things? It just seems very strange. Like we
No,
also even watched.
they're just riding on the coattails of other successful movies because
It's not.
they,
It's not just that. They're
because well
in Italy.
they can't get sued for calling it Zombie 2 when the actual title isn't Zombie, it's Dawn of the Dead.
Well, actually, in a lot of places you would get sued,
Oh,
but
really?
in Italy, there's no copyright law on that. In Italy, it's totally cool. It's never a problem to like you can remake a movie you had nothing to do with it, like and just make a sequel. This is why we had like Troll 2, for example, as well. Like in Italy, it's totally
Mm.
cool just to make a sequel to a movie that you had nothing to do with. Whilst I think in a lot of other places in Europe and North America, you do that, you might get some legal trouble because maybe it's like maybe seen as like you're profiting off of someone else's intellectual property, I guess.
Mm.
So, which is also explains again why I think so many of these movies have multiple names. This is Zombie 2 in Italy, but it's also in the UK. It was marketed as Zombie Flesh Eaters, so
Yeah,
they had to change it. So, like in the UK, it's nothing to do with Dawn of the Dead. In Italy, this is a sequel to Dawn of the Dead. You know,
yeah.
I found that quite interesting, like going
Mm.
into this kind of stuff.
I tell you this, I noticed it really early on, the moment they say, is this might be the first zombie film where they literally call the zombies zombies?
That's a good point, and I actually don't know.
Like,
Do they?
because it just sounded weird to me when they mentioned zombies. I was like, every zombie film I've watched, like they call them the dead, the undead, the infected, stuff like that. They avoid the word zombie, and it's only until Shaun of the Dead where they call them zombies, and they flat out go, "Don't call them that, because it's ridiculous." Like, and they joke about it. So like, hearing it in a movie about like a zombie film that takes itself somewhat seriously, and to hear them call them zombies, it was a bit odd for me. If anything, it's a little bit world breaking, because I agree. The moment you say zombie, it becomes a bit ridiculous.
Despite having it in the title of the film.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think any of the George A. Romero zombie films actually call them zombies. And I know the 28 days and weeks and months ones. I know they call them the infected.
Yeah.
What was it? Walking Dead? They're called like walkers or something like that.
I only ever watched the first few episodes of that show.
Yeah, I only watched the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then I was like, I'm done with this. So yeah, all right. Well, let's get into the details of the film. But yeah, it's a zombie island. That's basically the whole plot.
I really like the idea of Zombie Island.
Yeah, I do too, man. I do too.
You know what my first note of this film is?
Is it how someone gaslights their wife?
No.
And then slaps her and just walks away.
No. It's really stupid. Would a police boat really say, "Ahoy there," like as a boat is like coming in to New York, like Hudson Bay or whatever it is?
I reckon they would if their dialogue was written by Italian and then translated. Yeah. That's what I think happened there.
It seems so weird to me for them to say "ahoy there." I don't know why. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's perfectly normal, but it just seems very strange.
Do you want to know a cool bit of trivia about the word ahoy hoy?
I know what it is, isn't it? It's that it was supposed to be like what you say on the phone, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't go with it.
When they first invented the phone, it was the suggested way to greet each other. Have you noticed? In The Simpsons, every time Mr. Burns gets on the phone, he says ahoy hoy. It's meant to be a joke, a little nod to his age. I thought that, I only heard about it the other week, and I'm like, that's fucking genius, and I've never noticed it.
I think I saw that on Facebook from Cracked or something.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do we have... I know, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry, you go over the story. I think you're much better at telling the story than me, because I would just come in... I think I'm really, like, unfocused. I'm just, like, see things that I want to say out loud, and I'm overly excited. We'll
go through it, but yeah. We'll talk about it in depth. There's a lot going on. So, is it the zombie on the boat? Like a mortician examines his body and like sees that there's bite marks and stuff, and like his daughter or something is going to go and find out what happened to him on an island. Is that what the story is?
Well, she's worried because she hasn't seen him for like 3 months or something.
Yeah,
she
but
knows that she.
But it wasn't it because isn't it because his was the corpse that washed up in New York, and that's how she finds out. That's what I thought.
I think that they don't know. I don't think they know who the bodies are, the corpses. I think there's 2 on the boat, and I don't think that either of them are her father. And I think that's the reason why they go to the island, because they think that maybe he's still there. And when they get there, they find out that he's been dead for a while.
I will say I would have loved to have one of these boats. These boats look cool. I really want a boat.
A man can dream. When you retire. Can dream.
It's coming one day. I have a mate that has a boat, but she lives very far away. I can't use it.
She lives far away on a boat.
She lives far away on a boat. Um, this is the thing. The dialogue in this. I want to. Yeah, we'll talk about the Ahoy a bit more before we move on. So the dialogue is really boring and monotonous in this film, and I do think it's because it was written in a different language and then translated. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. It's really odd.
I would not be surprised.
So
yeah,
she goes with her husband. They're on someone else's boat for some reason, looking for the island that her dad was on. And there's a bit where, like, the guy who owns the boat is like with his wife. They're just sort of on holiday, I guess, and they're giving them a ride. I don't know. They don't really explain it. They don't really explain it. Like, we know that they're not like they're not like ongoing friends or anything. Like, they've asked them to take them to the island, and they have to find the island. And like, they stop the boat, and then the wife's like, "Oh, I want to get some shots before we carry on," and she just gets naked and puts some scuba gear on and goes skinny dipping with scuba gear to take pictures of fish. And of course, in every horror film, it's required to have tits. It seems to be that way, certainly in this era.
I think all of the films that we have watched for this Italian Video Nasties things have had
a lot of nudity. Yeah, yes. It's a lot of nudity. Some of it like uncomfortable to watch, like in Cannibal Holocaust. But in this one, they shoot it quite, if I'm honest, quite well. Like, it's shot very beautifully underwater, and it just happens to be someone with their boobs up. But I feel like you could have shot it the same way without the boobs, and it still would have been really good cinematography. I really dig all the underwater shots. I think they do a good job.
They filmed that in Isla Mujeres, which is actually an island off the coast of Mexico. And I've been there, actually. I was really surprised to find that I had been there.
That's cool.
But you're forgetting the most important thing that happens when she's down there.
Oh, I'm not forgetting it. I'm building up to it. I'm not forgetting it, because this is my favourite part of the film. This is my favourite sequence in maybe any zombie film. I love this sequence. I often show this sequence to people out of context just to get them to watch this movie. I'm like, this movie, it's wild, but then every now and again it just slows down and does some pretty stuff, and it's just shot really pretty, but it's still ridiculous. So yeah, she's down there. She comes across a shark, and then she gets away from the shark because the shark ends up having a fight with a zombie.
Yes.
And I love this. I often type in to YouTube zombie versus shark and then show people this scene. I love this.
This is just such a fucking nuts idea. Who the fuck decided?
It's an amazing idea. It's amazing.
I want a shark and a zombie to fight underwater. This is actually very ahead of its time now. Because if they saw the shit that's been coming out these days, like Sharknado, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I'm waiting for someone just to make a whole movie just on this one scene. Mm-hmm. We could drag it out. Let's make it a 2-hour movie of zombies versus sharks.
Zombies versus sharks. I would definitely watch that.
It would write itself. It would be so easy.
Though? I bet you any money there is one called Zombie Shark. I would bet money that Zombie Shark exists somewhere in the ether.
I bet you probably there is. Someone's done this already. Someone saw the opportunity and took it.
Surely. Like, they probably thought, zombies versus sharks would be good. But what would be even better zombie shark. I bet you
I will
someone's done.
admit, when you mentioned this to me, because you said you convinced me that we should watch this one, and I googled it. Okay, I have to see this scene for myself. And a lot of people on YouTube do comment on like how, yeah, although it's quite a ridiculous scene, to film it's quite impressive actually.
It's technically incredibly difficult, and it's done very well. And the way it's shot, like obviously the guy who's playing the zombie is a shark handler in real life. Like it has to be.
Yeah.
And it's more that they've choreographed movement with the shark to look like the shark is fighting the zombie. And
he even looks like he's biting it at one point.
Yeah, there's a bit where he bites the arm off the zombie. And
no, I mean the zombie looks like he's biting the shark.
Oh yeah, there's bits where it looks like he's literally ripping chunks off it and eating it.
Yeah.
But the way it's been choreographed, it feels like a dance. And then obviously the music that's along with it, you know, the music that I still think is a great part of the score. It's a great part of the movie, the soundtrack. But it feels like it doesn't necessarily go with it, or it does, but it provides a different tone. And like I say, it feels more dance-like. It feels choreographed. It feels sort of heavenly almost. It's shot really beautifully, and I really love this sequence. It doesn't make a lick of fucking sense, but it's great. It's just nice to watch. It's good to watch. It's part of that spectacle, you know. Like
people have also commented on the fact that you don't actually even see him breathe as well.
Yeah,
which actually makes it feel more like he
really
could be a zombie. Yeah,
no bubbles at all. To be fair, we did forget that the zombie did also attack the woman in the scuba gear before getting distracted by the shark.
That.
Yeah, go on, you go for it.
But you know, there's some couple of other things. I will mention this though. That shark is so non-aggressive.
Yeah, he's chill, isn't he?
Doesn't give a fuck. That I think I watch a lot of stuff about sharks on TV because I like my nature shit. If I have the TV on, it's going to be the nature channel. I don't care about anything else on TV. Yeah, the rest of it's shit. And sharks are not really that aggressive. Like I think really Jaws in the 70s really made everyone like super fucking terrified of sharks. And like a lot of the time they're just like this shark, they're just like not interested in you. And you can see it in this shark. He's just swimming along. He's just swimming along. He doesn't care. And it's just his shark trainer, this guy from Isla Mujeres, I assume, it's just like dancing around him basically. Yeah, you cannot take it seriously that the shark is any threat to him.
No, not at all.
I will also mention this as well. So we establish that zombies can live underwater. Now, at the beginning of this movie, one zombie does fall off that boat that arrives in New York. So could it be possible that zombie then made it to land and like passes the zombies and like?
Well, we know he did. We not to spoil the ending for people or anything, but that's exactly what happened. When we finally get back to radio signal with the main characters, they find out that New York has been overrun by zombies. Although I tell you what, if we're gonna skip to the end there, I may as well discuss that last shot. So there's two. I said earlier, there's two shots in the movie that's in New York, and I'm sure it's because they only had like a filming permit or maybe they didn't even have a filming permit. You know what? I'm going to go with no filming permit. This film has like 1 million cheapest chips points. The last shot, the zombies are like walking on a bridge, but you can see clearly underneath them that cars are just like normal traffic is still, you know, And it's like, obviously, I reckon they didn't have permission. I reckon they just rocked up at a bridge in New York and were like, right, everyone dress up as a zombie. We're going to, in 15 minutes, someone's going to tell us to fuck off. So we better get this in one take. And I reckon that's what happened. Because as I say, that traffic is totally uninterrupted. It's just normal traffic. They're not trying to get away from a zombie-infested Manhattan. They're just, it's just normal traffic. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where we were, we were talking about the zombie shark. And then we go to the island, right? Mm-hmm. And like, so we've met the doctor and his wife. And I mentioned earlier that the doctor like slaps her and gaslights her because she's like talking about how he's like a mad scientist, basically. So like when we get like after the zombie and shark, we go back to the wife. And I wrote in my notes here, we've got a naked woman again so soon after seeing boobs. So once again, you know, we're getting a lot of nudity in this one. And I think it is a theme in these video nasties, having a lot of nudity.
Of course.
So she's like getting a shower. And a zombie is like just watching her through a window. Just having a watch. And I'm like, I don't hate the idea of pervy zombies, you know. It makes sense to me. If you go because if you're going like to your basic needs as a zombie, food, also fucking would fall under that. So I don't mind necessarily.
So?
I would say so. I don't mind pervy zombies. Like in Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, there's literally a scene where two zombies have sex. And I'm pretty sure one's head explodes on orgasm. We should definitely do Brain Dead. It's a really fun zombie flick.
I haven't heard of this one, but I don't agree with you there.
It's Peter Jackson's first movie. It's definitely worth watching.
But I don't think that
you don't want pervy zombies.
I just don't think I think their base desires like. I think eat is the main desire. Everything else comes second. Everything else doesn't matter. I don't think sex even comes into it. I think they're completely asexual. They just want to eat. They just want to consume. That's how I've always seen zombies.
Yeah, sure. But I don't mind having a pervy zombie every now and again. Every now and again you get a zombie movie with a pervy zombie. And I can live with that. I reckon you need one every now and again to break it up.
A bit of humour.
Yeah.
Is it humour? Is it humour or is it just something else?
I think it's played as humour a lot of the time.
But in this scene, it's not really played as humour.
Well, he's not really.
Zombie hand.
In all fairness, he's not really being pervy. He's just waiting for his moment to strike. But
yeah.
She barricades the door, but like I've never seen someone struggle so much to push a table.
Yes.
And you know what? This table has does not help in the slightest to keep this door closed.
It's filmed very awkwardly. That whole scene is so stumbling. It's just stumbling to get this shot done.
At one point, she's trying to like close the door, and you're like, "What the fuck is she doing? Trying to close this door?" And then you see the zombie just sort of push his hands through and you're like, "Well, if his hands weren't there a second ago, then why is she struggling so much to close this door?"
There was even the bit that so as the zombies I think that they were trying to be clever with the film, the technique that they were doing, and it almost didn't work. It looked like it was almost by accident. So you're seeing the wall, and you can see the light from the door getting wider. But at first, I'm like, why are they filming the fucking wall? Like the door is just there, and then you see it kind of like open, and the light gets brighter. Okay, I see what they're going for. But I think they were trying to be smart, but I don't think it worked too well. I don't know if you agree.
Oh, no, I don't disagree at all. However, I do like how the scene ends. I do like so like like the hand bursts through and like pushes out like a sharp shard of wood, and he grabs her head and just slowly pulls her face into this big spike of wood, and it goes right through her eye. That scene, like as awkwardly as it all was, it was worth the payoff. The kill was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most famous scenes from this film, maybe after the shark fight. But I will say though, there is like, this is the only scene where the zombies act like that, where they can overpower someone, I think. Because later on, I'm skipping a lot. I'm sorry, I always do this, but I have to say what's on my mind.
Go on, go for it.
Later on in the film, they're barricading themselves in this kind of barn. And they're just like banging themselves against the door like a bunch of fucking lemmings. Like they just can't get in. It's like they're not able to use their arms anymore. They're just walking into it, thud, 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 and like it's very strange how they go from being able to rip a door apart to
it's not
even being able to
consistent.
use their arms. No,
and that was one zombie that ripped the door apart. But the scene you're talking about, it's like 4 or 5 just sort of brushing against the door. So yeah, it's not consistent.
very much so. But I really like this film though. And also, I felt I was a little bit impressed with myself. I'm such a geography nerd, man. So, the island that they mentioned, they didn't actually mention it by name. They said the Antilles, but the Antilles is really broad. The Antilles is basically the whole Caribbean. The Antilles is basically because there's like the greater and lesser, so it's like the whole chain of like the Caribbean islands, and then they go to a Spanish-speaking country, and I'm used to okay, it has to be the Dominican Republic because, like, one, it's Spanish-speaking, and two, they're right next to Haiti because that island Hispaniola is shared between Dominica and Haiti, and Haiti is known for its voodoo. That's like where it usually comes from and associated with zombieism. And like, aha. I knew it was there, and then I Googled it. I checked it on Wikipedia. I was like, aha, I was right. It was in the capital, Santo Domingo. So I was quite pleased with myself figuring that out.
I give a man a zombie film to watch, and he's out here playing GeoGuessr.
Man, I'm such a nerd with this stuff. I have a mug that I won because there was a quiz I was on a cruise, and it was based on the flag. So whoever got the most flags correctly wins a mug. And I got all 10 right. And like they were shocked that who the fuck is this kid that he knows all of these? I'm really a geography nerd. I'm just full of this shit.
I will say my favourite flag is the Tibetan one because it's just different.
Are you thinking of the Tibetan or are you thinking of Bhutan?
The Tibetan one, isn't it Tibet? Where it's like
or it might
it's
be
like
Nepal.
a 5. It's like, oh, sorry, Nepal. Yeah, it is Nepal. Sorry. The Nepalese flag. It's like a 5-sided flag.
Yeah. Interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I'm so good at it that like my favourite flag, I forgot what country it was. That's my level of geography.
Yeah.
I knew what it looked like. Cool flag.
You knew what you liked. Yes.
Yeah. I just forgot it was Nepal. So we go back to the film real quick before we keep talking about flags. So after the eye thing, the boat crew, the people on the boat, like the shark fucked up the boat or something. They shoot a flare gun and they get saved by the assistant of the doctor who's been experimenting on this island. And we find out, after meeting him, that he worked with the girl's father. The girl's father got the zombieism and gave his body to the science of it all. He was like, he's a very brave man, or whatever he says.
Didn't he just shoot him in the head? In the head?
Yeah, he doesn't really like do any tests on him, but he does say, like, he does mention that the dad said, like, yeah, you know, you can basically, I'll give my body to the science of it all, essentially. But he does shoot him in the head. You're quite right. Isn't it the same shot from the beginning of the film? Where they're like, the boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
Just for them to die as well.
Yeah. But is that meant to be a callback, or are they just reusing the same shot for cheap as chips? Because now that I've said that it could just be reusing the same shot because they're on a budget, that does sound plausible.
That could be the case, but I don't think it is here. I think that they were trying to do something with the story there. To try to close a loop or something.
Because let's be honest, it's convoluted. Like, it's not convoluted, it's just hard to follow. Like, it's just, where are all the zombies coming from? Like, even my favourite scene with the zombie and the shark. Where did that zombie come from? You know, if all these zombies are going around all the fucking time, like, there's one point where Spanish conquistador zombies rise that have been dead for like 400 years. And it's like, well, why haven't they been walking around just except for this very moment? Why haven't they already gotten up? You know? So, you know, there's a lot of plot holes, but like, yeah, they just throw zombies at the screen, but it's still very good fun. So they meet the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, okay. He explains everything, and he's like, I'm going to go this way. You go see my wife. I forget now why they split up, but he's like, you go see my wife. Where does she live? 8 miles that way. No address, no direction, just 8 miles that way.
Quite a bit. Quite a big island.
Quite a big island. And then when they get there, they're like, oh, no one's home. We may as well go inside then. Like, how is that the logic? I'm trying to find someone. They're not home. I better let myself in.
Yeah.
If I got home to people just letting themselves into my flat, they wouldn't be my friends for much longer.
But, you know, like, this movie also has the kind of logic where if you're two random people that just arrived in a country and you go to the harbour and you see two other people with a boat, you're like, can you take us to this island that, like, the locals say not to go to because it's, like, really fucked up?
Quite true.
I'll just say fuck off. I'm not going there. I don't know you. I'm not going to do this massive favour for someone I don't know.
We're out here taking pictures of fish naked.
Yeah.
Why? We don't want to help you out.
I don't want to go somewhere where the locals say to avoid. Like,
Yeah.
I'm cool just staying in the safety zone here. I just want to be chill. I'm on vacation.
Fair enough. You're right. I shouldn't read too much into it, I guess. So then they go in, they find the wife. She's being eaten by like 4 or 5 zombies.
This is the cannibalism. This is the most cannibalistic element from it. Like, if I'm going with my theory of like a lot of these movies getting done for this, like being banned for this kind of, for cannibalism, this is probably the point where the British Board of whatever the fuck for film certification was like, okay, no, banned, look at them, they're all sitting around eating human flesh. No, we can't have this in the UK.
Yeah, no, I the more we watch them, the more I think you're right. And I have to say, I think the zombies kind of look great in this movie as well. Like, they're definitely done cheap, but I don't know. I think they look really good, especially the one that fights the shark. I think he looks great. I think all the zombies that are chowing down on the wife in this scene, I think they all look great. You know, like
I think this movie was nominated for something for makeup. Actually, I'm not sure what.
That would surprise me. But like, so like, have you seen the original Dawn of the Dead that this is obviously ripping off?
I have, but a very long time ago.
But I will say, as much as it's Tom Savini doing the special effects makeup, and he's like prolific and well renowned as a great special effects and makeup guy. I think the original Dawn of the Dead looks awful. Like they're all blue, all their skin is blue. Like they don't look too scary. I've always found the original Dawn of the Dead, the main issue is how the zombies look for me. Besides that, the movie's excellent, but the look of the zombies I'm not a huge fan of. This film, if anything, is correcting that error for me. I do think they improved the look on the zombies, despite being a cash grab.
I agree. But you have to remember, how many years has it been since Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead was what, 76? Something like that?
76? Wasn't it a 60s
74?
movie? I swear it came out in the 60s.
No, you're thinking of Night of the Living Dead, Ramiro's first film, which was like 69.
I think probably I watched that one then. And
that one's the black and white one.
Yes, I remember being black and white. Yeah.
See, that's not Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is the one in the shopping mall that Zack Snyder remade in the mid-2000s.
Uh-huh.
But it's the one in the shopping mall that's sort of emulating Black Friday. And it's really good. Like, I really like the original Dawn of the Dead. I'm sure I remember Tom Savini not just doing the makeup, but also being in the movie. But I like the original a lot, but the look of the zombies, like I say, they're blue. They're blue, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want my I don't like my undead blue. I like them grey. Grey is better.
Yeah, it looks like the life has been sucked out of them. Blue doesn't really work with them. But yeah, so the makeup work is quite good on a lot of the zombies.
Yeah, I really like the zombies in this.
For a cheap film as well.
Yeah, because this is the thing, the makeup effects are obviously cheap, but however they've done it, it really helps lend itself to the look. So I do appreciate it. I think they did well. Anyway, so back to the movie. Don't they get into a car crash at one point? Like they leave because the woman's dead. So they crash the car because they hit a zombie or something.
They do.
And now
they hit a zombie.
And now one of them has a busted ankle, and I don't know how he hurt his ankle.
I think it was in the car crash.
I've been in car accidents to that extent before, and no one's hurt. And this guy's got like a bloody... Yeah, but this guy's got like a bloody foot, and he can't put any pressure on it. And I'm like, well, it's not like you were stood up in the car when it crashed. You were sat down. How did you fuck your foot up? So, but okay, he fucks his foot up. And so, like, he's hobbling around. No one helps him walk on his own. Like, he's always walking on his own. No one is helping him getting around. Now, don't get me wrong. If it was me and you, for example, I think I'd have legged it by now. I'd have legged it, be like, sorry, Craig.
Oh, fuck you. Sorry,
mate. You better cause a distraction because that's all you're good for right now. But if we're sticking together, why wouldn't I help you? You're only going to slow me down if I don't help you.
Because he's a man and he can do it by himself. He doesn't need any help.
Of course, men.
I will also mention, by the way, that the actor. Did you notice his enormous bald patch at the back of his head?
I did notice the enormous bald patch. Yeah, I did.
I think at some points they were trying not to get it in the frame. But you see it every so often and it's very distracting.
I noticed it once at one point. I wrote down a quote around this part of the movie, Craig, by the way. And it did make me think of Dawn of the Dead a lot. It didn't. So in Dawn of the Dead, the big quote is, and I've said it a few times, when there's no more room left in hell, the dead walk the earth. In this film, they say, when the earth spits out the dead, they will suck the blood of the living. So, I wonder, is that, like, did Dawn of the Dead come out in Italy? They dub it in Italian, and then the line in the Italian dub, if you translate that back to English, it would come out like this, I reckon. That's a guess I'm making.
Nah,
I haven't looked it up, but I reckon.
it's a nice idea, but I think they sound too different. Unless they change the meaning a bit in Italian. Because you're saying there's no space left in hell. The other one you're saying they'll return and they'll suck the life. It seems too different. I can't really see the connection too much unless they've really changed it.
Because I think they put the same kind of stress on this line as they do in the original Dawn of the Dead. I wouldn't put money on it, but I would hazard a guess that's where this line came from. Like just bad translation. We've got to watch it. A translation train, if you will. So this is, I mentioned this earlier, this is when they get into like a 400-year-old Spanish conquistador graveyard, and they find a 400-year-old helmet. They've been there for 400 years. They haven't risen as a zombie already. We know there's plenty of zombies on this island. Why are these ones been just waiting for 400 years? Because they unearthed themselves. So what? They've just been waiting for a couple of tourists to roll around on a busy road as well. It's not like people don't go down there. There are people on the island. How is this the first time they've unearthed themselves? Or do they go back? Is that where they live? Do they come up, do some zombieing, and then go back home?
Nah, I'm thinking from all the bugs and stuff in their eyes that they probably live down there. I think that we're missing a lot of we're trying to put in story in holes here. I mean, it's clearly a plot hole, but I think that there could have been a story here why this is happening now. Like someone unearthed some black magic voodoo stuff from
this is it
way back. But it's also like it's two types of zombie logic here. It's like when you bite someone, you become a zombie, right?
Yeah.
And there's also people coming back from the dead and becoming zombies.
Yeah.
And it's happening both in this movie.
You've got to pick a lane. I think. If you're going to make it a virus, that's fine. But if you're going to go with the voodoo angle, I think a person needs to be dead and then they return to life. And it shouldn't be induced with scratches or bites. But maybe I'm wrong. But I've always separated the two. Different kinds of zombies. Virus zombies. I would think of it as a curse. Voodoo zombies. Curse zombies, yeah. For me, I think you need to die and then you can come back. If you're going to go down this angle of like a voodoo curse. But if you're going to go down the virus, you can get bit by one and become one. It's fine. But you can't mix the two together. I think that's another like example of this film. Like they have all of these zombie influences that they're sort of cramming together into one film, and it contradicts themselves. They contradict themselves without realizing, because they double down on it.
It has to start with the dead coming back to life, and then if they're let's say cursed, I would say cursed because I think it should be a curse thing, not an infection, and then they start biting the living, and then they become the same. That makes sense to me. I can live with that. But like having people who are already zombies from biting each other and then the dead rising feels a bit it doesn't feel chronological.
Yeah.
To me.
I'll give you that too, yeah.
But the best looking zombies are those zombies I think that come up here, the conquistadors.
Yeah, they look good. They were the ones that they had the best fear factor for me, because you've got like maggots in their eye sockets and stuff. Like they look the best for sure. I do have a note here about that scene that a woman, the wife of the guy who is driving the boat, the one with the short hair. She literally just watches a zombie sit up very slowly and then bite her in the throat. And she does not move a fucking muscle. She just sits there and waits to get eaten.
Which is interesting because when she's underwater and she sees the shark, she's
really resourceful. Exactly,
Yeah.
she's really resourceful earlier in the film. And then in this part of the film, she just becomes another damsel in distress and immediately gets taken out. And I thought that was a shame, because I liked the fact that she was resourceful against the shark. She doesn't try and get back on the boat. She's like, no, it's more sensible if I stay down here and evade the shark. And so, like, she does that, like, it's an active choice. So, yeah, I thought it was very out of character for her to just sit there and watch a zombie slowly sit up and eat her.
Yeah, and I also had a note about this point as well, because so when she dies, I just found it very strange the way that her husband, I forgot his name, reacts. So her body is like she's laying slain on the ground, and the way that he approaches her and kind of like holds her was very unnatural. Did you also notice that as well? It just was very weird acting.
And he's very quick to be convinced to leave her there as well.
Yeah. Not very realistic at all.
No. Well, I'll tell you another thing that's not realistic, Craig. I seem to remember, I didn't write it down, but I seem to remember the doctor mentions that all of this zombie shit's only happening in the last 3 months. You've got 400-year-old Spanish conquistadors. You've got like a pile of bodies building up in this hospital where they're unable to cure them. You have the girl's father that's been there studying with him, and then he died, and then word had gotten back to the girl and so then she's had to like, I just don't feel like all of this could have happened in 3 months.
Why?
I think it's too short of a time span. With what they set up, I really feel like this has to be over a longer period of time. And what were you doing there in the first place to discover the zombie voodoo things?
Well, I think that they were just on vacation before.
What, the doctor and his wife and the girl's father? They were just there on vacation.
Did they mention something about it?
To an uncharted island on vacation.
Hey, it's not completely uncharted.
By the way, can I? Yeah, it is completely uncharted. They make a whole point out of it at the beginning that they can't find it on a map. They have to.
I don't take that seriously. I thought that was really silly to say. I don't think that's really the case of these islands. It might be silly to say, but they establish it. So if they establish it, we have to take it. And if we take it... There were plenty of people living there.
Well, were they living there, or were they only there on the doctor's orders? But then again, who are all these people that are becoming zombies? We don't meet many locals.
Back to what you said about like why they were there, I think they did mention about how they would often go there. And like they were friends and stuff. And like this was like a kind of vacation place that they would go to.
All right. They did say it was an uncharted island, though.
I don't know, man. I don't think there is anywhere uncharted in this part of the world. They're trying to make it seem very tropical and exotic and everything, but this is in the Caribbean. This is not somewhere so crazy remote.
True.
All the islands have definitely been mapped by this point for sure. I thought that was a bit silly how they said that, actually.
I mean, look, there's a lot of inconsistencies with this film.
Yeah.
Like this is probably the worst film, but there's some real technical flourishes that this is going to get a pretty high rating for me, I reckon.
I really enjoyed this one. Like, I think for me so far, it goes like the best to worst from the 4 films that we've watched. It goes Cannibal Holocaust, which is fucked up to say that it's number 1, but it does have some good shit in it. Then it's this film, then it's Tenebrae, and then it's Cannibal Apocalypse for me so far.
I mean, I think if you'd asked me before the pod, before we watch these again, I think I would have agreed with your list, but I did really, really like Tenebrae.
It's very good, no doubt.
I forget what I gave it, but like, I think I might have liked it more than this. But I think that this one has some stuff in there that I really, really love. I really love the zombie and shark fight. I think it's great. It looks fun. Like, really, really fun.
I just love the idea of zombie islands. There's something about it that really appeals to me.
You've mentioned that so many times, and you know what? I don't disagree. I think a zombie island's a fucking fab idea. We're nearly at the end now anyway, aren't we? We're
more or less.
They hold up in the hospital or something. I forget how they get back to the hospital, but they do get back to the hospital. They hold up.
The hospital, which is in like a barn. Actually, no, I think it's supposed to be a church, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like
converted.
There's Christian crosses outside. I think it's a church. Yeah, and they have like a final stand against the zombies. I have to say though, like, I think they do establish that you need to shoot them in the head quite early with the doctor. Like, he always shoots them in the head. The other people never shoot for the head first. And
they haven't learned this.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess. All right, fine. Did you notice that there was a zombie on fire?
At which point?
The point where the music became wrong for the scene. I just distinctly remember the music being very wrong, but the stunt being very right. The stunt was great. The stunt was fantastic. Like, zombie on fire. I can dig a zombie on fire because, like, you've got to hold, like, whoever's in that fire is holding the performance of a zombie as well. So I appreciate a zombie on fire, but I do remember the music distracting me.
I think I vaguely remember the zombie on fire, but speaking about the fire...
To be fair, the whole island goes on fire, doesn't it?
Yeah, more or less, I think, yeah. But isn't it also really stupid to throw like a Molotov cocktail indoors in a wooden building?
Obviously. That's like, another... That's not a plot hole, that's just dumb.
That's just very dumb. That's a very quick way to die.
Yeah, 100%. The characters in this are not logical.
No. But, you know, it did make me think of not Dawn of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead.
Probably Shaun of the Dead. I'm thinking about how they end up, like, they try to barricade themselves in one place and fight them off. And you kind of know, like, there's a feeling like you're probably not going to survive this. But I think there probably are plenty of other zombie movies where this is also the case.
I'm sure. I'm thinking of loads. I just can't remember which ones they are. I can't remember the names. Night of the Living Dead. Like every zombie film, there's a barricading scene. Always. So what happens at the end? The friend dies, and they go to shoot him, and they're like, no. We need him as evidence to prove what happened here really happened. Yeah. But then they hear on the radio, oh, we don't need that proof. We've already got a zombie infestation. We've got a pandemic that we're dealing with already. And then we get that shot at the end that I said they've definitely just gone to the top of a bridge without a permit and just got traffic in the background.
At which point I really hope that they kicked the zombie off the boat before it became a zombie. Otherwise they'd be dead too.
You'd like to think. And look, once again, we hear them call them zombies. Which again, like, it just blows me away that they use the word zombie in this.
Yeah. I will mention, by the way, we haven't talked much about the earlier parts of this movie. I also mentioned this as well. I'm looking back at my notes, sorry. I also watched this on YouTube. Did you watch this on YouTube?
I did. So
Yes.
three of the 4 films we've done this season, I've watched on my phone on YouTube.
Really crazy.
Yeah.
That a movie that is like X-rated, that is like banned in places, is on YouTube, and
it's wild.
No one. Yeah.
Do you know what's wacky as fuck? I think the most tame movie out of the 4 that we've done, Cannibal Apocalypse, I had to go out of my way to find that. Whereas the 3 that I think are really quite brutal, maybe not so much Tenebrae, but this one and Cannibal Holocaust, I can't believe that these are on YouTube.
I don't know, man. YouTube has changed a lot over the years. Some reason they're allowing this. I'm not sure. Maybe there is some age restriction stuff preventing children from watching this. I fucking hope there is.
I bloody hope so, yeah.
It really surprised me that was on YouTube as well. I actually, because you mentioned it before with the other 2 that we watched, and I was like, okay, first place I'm going to check is YouTube. Yeah. Instead of going out of my way. But yeah, I was going back to kind of like more like towards the beginning. Why was this British journalist? I thought that I don't know if you felt the same way, but I thought at the beginning we were like at a police station, and he was just a journalist who happened to be there, and I thought that the police were also paying for him to go to this island, but I think maybe I just wasn't paying attention properly, and it was like.
So this was my question at the beginning, like what happened? Like I had it in my head because they're in the mortuary, like there are morticians there examining the corpse. They mention that they see bite marks, and then you see a hand move under the tarp of the body. So I'd assumed that corpse was her father, and then they informed her that we found your father's body, and she was going back to find out what happened to him. That's what I thought the plot was. But I think that opening isn't very clear. Maybe it is clear, and it's just coincidence that both me and you lost concentration or whatever. But I think it's probably closer to bad storytelling. I'm writing notes throughout. Like, don't get me wrong, I watched it quite a few weeks ago, or a week ago, I should say. But I see in my notes here: mortician examines corpse, sees bites, hand moves. All this dialogue is boring, and that's my. Yeah. And I've also got here. I didn't mention this. I love the shot of the zombies on the boat with New York in the background. I do like that. It's an expensive looking shot.
It does look good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of confused there because I really thought that he was like, why is he at a police station and why are the police telling him to go? But I guess it was the journalist office and I just was being stupid. But
no idea.
This British guy, he's actually a Scottish actor, by the way. I think he's still alive now. The other guy, the doctor, Dr. Menard is his name. He's an English guy. He passed away recently, actually. But yeah, he's acting a bit weird around this woman, like on the boat, sniffing her hair at one point, which would look really fucked up. And then his idea of like getting away from the police is to like start snogging, and then like, oh yeah, we were just looking for a place to like, bang or something, and like we stumbled across this fucking police cordoned boat where potential murders happened. I don't know. I'm just exhausting my notes here, but yeah.
Yeah.
He comes across pretty fucking weird. And also, by the way, now I mention it, so you mentioned earlier that his leg gets fucked up later on, a bit before we see the conquistadors come from the ground. And they're both lying on the ground at one point, and he like kind of rolls over to her and starts kissing her, and she looks really uncomfortable with that scene. She looked like she did not want to do that. Like, you could just see in the actress's face that this is not something that she wanted to do.
The last thing she wants to do is snog a guy with a big old ball patch.
Man, if I get like that, it's all going.
But it's same, yeah. But it doesn't make sense to me, because it's like he's there complaining about his foot. Like, he's like, go on without me. And they just start snogging.
Yeah.
And it's really weird sequence of events, because they make it clear they're not going without him. So it's like, okay, you have a little rest. But like, if you're getting chased by zombies, surely the last thing on your mind is getting some hanky-panky.
Surely indeed, but evidently with this guy, it's not the case.
Cheeky monkey.
Cheeky fucker.
Always time for a little rough and tumble.
Indeed. But yeah, like, I think we've ripped into this film a fair bit here and there. But I have really enjoyed watching this. Like, I actually really want more films like this. I want more exotic zombie location, random fucking films like this. It's fantastic.
I like a lot of the cinematography in this. I really enjoy some of the directorial flourishes. I quite like it sometimes when a film is more style over substance. Like, sometimes we can complain about style over substance. You know, I think Zack Snyder's definitely a good example of someone who's taken the brunt of that, where people have accused him of being a bad filmmaker. He just makes it look good. And it's like, well, I would say this film is bad on so many levels, but it's also that they achieve really impressive stuff on a cinematic level in this film as well. So, like, this film, for me, I definitely think the zombie shark thing is style over substance. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't progress the plot. If anything, the movie stops just so you can see this sequence. You know, it is style over substance, but it's enjoyable and it's shot really well and you have a lot of fun watching it. So, like, you know, sometimes style over substance is something that I can get on board with, because I would say this film is quite artsy in places.
For sure. I think style over substance works if it's interesting enough.
Yes.
If it's something that has been done before, then it's trash. But if you can bring something new to the table, okay, I'm down for it. And it's interesting you brought up the Zack Snyder, because people criticizing him is actually like, man, you got to see some more cinema, because there's some really worse examples than him when it comes to style over substance.
Once again, I mean, it's a total coincidence that I bring him up, and he made the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Did he do that?
Yeah,
I didn't.
He directed it. James Gunn wrote it.
What year are we talking? Because I'm completely unaware.
Was it 2005, 2006, something like that? Maybe later, maybe earlier. Something like that. Mid-noughties. Mid to late noughties I'd go for. I distinctly remember they do a swing version of Get Down with the Sickness by Disturbed. So when did Disturbed release that? Like mid-noughties. So,
all right. I am thinking though it will be good at some point if we did a zombie season. It kind of needs to happen.
I mean, yes, there is. Yeah, sure. But you remember, Craig, I did my final dissertation at uni on zombie films, and I've actively avoided zombie films since, because I exhausted my love of the genre when I did that essay. Shaun of the Dead being probably the only one I can really go back to regularly. It's such a fucking good movie. Maybe even the best zombie film ever made. But we can do it. We can do it. Maybe this will rekindle it for me.
If we pick the best.
Yeah, we do like Dawn of the Dead, 28 Days Later. Could do Shaun of the Dead because it's fucking great. But there's a few. What's the one? There's one where they go brains, and it's the only zombie film I can think of where they actually use the brain cliche of zombies. It's the only example I can think of, but I can't think of the name of it. I actually thought it was called Zombie Flesh Eaters, but it's not. Obviously, rewatching this, it's not Zombie Flesh Eaters.
I remember you specifically telling me that this was the first or only movie or something where they have to eat brains, and I was like, okay, where's the brains bit? Where is it coming? And it's like, oh, it didn't happen. I was like,
it never came.
Yes.
Okay, so I've just typed it in, and I can confirm because I'm just looking at a picture from the film. It was a film called The Return of the Living Dead. But again, I thought that it was like one of those films that were trying to cash in on George A. Romero films. So I don't think this is, even though it's called even though it's a Living Dead movie, I don't think it's connected to Night of the Living Dead nor any other Romero flick. But I thought it was one of those Italian cash-ins. I'm just looking at it now. It looks like it's a comedy horror. So it's more of a spoof. It's more of a spoof than anything. But I'd be well up for doing Return of the Living Dead 2. I distinctly remember the scene where the guy's like, brains. And it's iconic.
Yeah. This is for something further down the line, but for sure I'd be up for it.
Oh, yeah. Maybe next Halloween.
Shall we? I think we've exhausted everything.
Yeah, I've got no more notes left besides my rating.
Yes. I'm not sure how to rate this one, to be honest. Because
go with your heart.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel that I personally quite like this movie, but I'm aware that it's not like a genius movie. I feel that I really enjoyed watching it because it just felt very fun to me. But there is plenty of silliness going on.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know how to really put it. I think for myself, I might put this at a 7-something. Because
what?
I feel that, yeah, for myself for sure. Because I enjoy watching it. I think I could definitely watch this again and enjoy it and just laugh at it and just immerse myself in this fun little zombie island adventure.
But you know what? It's normally me overrating a movie. Normally. Well, I say overrating. I disagree with that statement, actually. I don't overrate them. I give them the appropriate rating. But I'm always the one giving a higher rating than you. And it's not going to be the same today.
I did quite like this one. But I will say that that's my personal rating. It's not the same as my IMDb guess. I'll guess differently there.
Go on then.
IMDb, I bet this is something, maybe a high 5. I'm going to say 5.8 or something.
Well, so I'm gonna fold them all in. Both my IMDb rating and my personal rating. I'm just going to fold into one rating and equate both in. Okay, technically speaking, it's not very good, but there's some elements that are just fucking brilliant. but I also enjoy the film. But I don't enjoy it as much as some of the other films we've watched this season. I'm giving this a 6.1.
That's pretty fair.
I think it's a fair rating, yeah. I think 6.1 is very fair for this film. Because I'm not saying it's bad, it's highly enjoyable. But, like, the script is dreadful, the leaps and logic are dreadful, there are the things that are confusing. If you don't follow the whole thing, you know, zombies that show up out of nowhere. The voodoo element is just sort of slapdash and, you know, not handled very well. I'll give it a 6.1. I have fun with this movie. It's got easily my favourite scene in any zombie film, and that is the zombie and shark. Easily my favourite, like by a country mile. But is it a great film? Is it worthy of a 7? Absolutely not for me. This is a 6.1. And I still think I'm being somewhat generous because of personal preference.
No, yeah, it's more than halfway.
Yeah.
Let me see what it is then.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what IMDb gives it.
It is... Ooh! You'll never believe this. It's 6.8.
Oh, so nice and in the middle then.
Well, like...
Sort of closer to you than me, but pretty in the middle. That's all right.
Well, 7 was my personal rating. Because I was going to go like 5.8 or something like that. You went for 6. What did you say? 6.1 or something?
Yeah.
So that's surprising, actually. I didn't think it would be so high.
Oh, of course. This is a well-loved cult classic.
Fair play. Yeah, that's very true.
Mm.
There are a lot of people who actively really like this movie. So
yeah, people really like this one. So I'm not surprised it got a high 6. That's probably quite a fair grade because it doesn't just factor in, you know, how good the film is, but also personal preference. Like, people do like this film, despite it being a cash grab, despite it being not the best, and despite it, you know, throwing every penny that it possibly could afford at the screen. Oh, we get one day in New York to film. I'm sure they only got one day in New York to shoot.
For sure.
So yeah, but I do like this film a lot. I do like it.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch it. Like, I'm actually really surprised, by the way, how many of these movies we watched that I enjoyed.
I'll be honest, I'm quite surprised at how much I enjoyed this season. I was worried that this was going to be difficult to get through because it was Video Nasties. Like, oh, this is going to be hard to watch and da-da-da-da-da. I was incredibly surprised at how much we both enjoyed Cannibal Holocaust, like, as a film, like, really well-made movie. And I'm surprised. Like, I thought Tenebrae, again, I was going to be like, oh, Dario Argento, another fluke or whatever. No, I really liked Tenebrae a lot. I really liked it. I really like this. And again, Cannibal Apocalypse is definitely the weakest one out of the 4. But is it... did it have its moments? 100%. I really liked Cannibal Apocalypse. I think I might have even talked you into liking it a bit more after our previous episode. Like you went into that pretty ready to be like, this film was shit. And I'm like, well, I read it this way. You're like, oh, that does actually make it better. So, you know, I was surprised with this season. I wouldn't even mind doing another Video Nasty season maybe next year when
for sure.
But maybe we'll do a different country. We won't do Italian ones. We'll do a different country, or maybe just an assortment. We'll figure it out.
Most definitely, yeah.
All right. Well, unless you've got anything else to say, I think we should wrap it up there, Craig.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Thanks everyone for coming out to listen to us. We are Film Shrapnel. Go check us out on all of those social media things that I'm too old to really learn about. I don't really dig them at all. And yeah, much love. Keep it easy, keep it breezy. Craig, you got anything to say?
Not really. Just keep listening and stay tuned for more.
Yeah, I couldn't put it better myself. All right, guys. Well,
all right.
Until next time, we don't know what we're doing for the next episode, but like I say, keep in touch with us on social media. We will let you know. We'll be very forthcoming. And until then, take it easy. Keep it breezy.
Take it easy.
Film Shrapnel.